Hi everyone, welcome along to this TechNet video having a look at Adobe Audition's multi-track window and all the crazy things you can do with it. So in the last Adobe Audition video, we had a look at a basic introduction to all the kind of things you can do. So now we're going to move over to the multi-track window, which is the other side of Adobe Audition. So first of all, you obviously want to load up Adobe Audition like I have here. I've got a couple of tracks in already, and I want to click on the multi-track tool here. So what it will do is it'll ask you to make a multi-track session. So feel free to save this wherever you so wish. I'm just going to call this test session 1 and I'm just going to leave it in my user area for the time being. Obviously I recommend saving this into your scratch disk folder or whichever folder has got your entire project and all your audio files in. It's best to have them all in the same place so Adobe doesn't get confused to where all your items are. So I'm just going to click OK on here, and as you can see here is my multi-track window. So with I'm just going to move that out of the way so you can see this a little bit clearer. So with our multi-track window, how it works is you've got these multiple tracks, and essentially all of these are playing at the same time. So it's very similar to editing a video, except you're only working with sound. So I can drag and drop this bar up and down here so you can see a little bit more and a little bit less of each option, as it were. So each label is literally just labeled track. You can change these names if you want to make your life a little bit easier. They do color code it for you, and you can add as many tracks as you so wish. The only one you can't get rid of is this bottom one called mix. So this is the one where Audition sandwiches everything and puts it into one mixed down track, which is then your final export when you come around to saving it. So to drag and drop an audio file in here, all you simply do is you just drag it from your files window up here and you just drop it straight in. Now sometimes you'll get this warning. So what this warning basically means is that your sample rate of your audio files doesn't match your original multi-track that you created. So it's always good to try your best to match it. However, if you're getting audio from various different sources, this may differ. If you're getting things from our audio server, if you've recorded things on your phone, if you've recorded things on different audio recorders like a Zoom H2 or a H4, or even the Sound Studio itself that I'm currently sat in, or of course any sort of audio that you have already. So it's always best to click OK, and then what it will do is it will create a copy for you at the right frequency rate for your sequence. Now we've got our track in here, we can simply press the play button, and of course, as you can see, it will play as per usual. However, up here we've got some tools that you can use. Now the main one you're going to be using in Audition is the Razer Select tool. So what this allows you to do is grab your Razer blade, exactly the same as Premiere Pro, and you can cut a clip in half like so. You can go back to your move tool and you can move these around all the different tracks. So what this technically means, if I do this, they'll sound like absolute garbage, but you can play both things at the same time. So this is how multi-track works. So what you've got to consider, the main thing here, is the volume of each track compared to each other. So which piece of audio do you want as the loudest, what piece of audio do you want as the quietest, and how do you want that to fluctuate throughout. So exactly the same with your opacity marker in Premiere Pro. If you're doing some manual fades, you've got a volume line here as well. So we can click on this volume line, add some dots, exactly the same as Premiere Pro, and we can of course drop our meter down like so. Now the best way to do this is when you see the little plus icon on your mouse that you can just about see there, if you press and hold the control key, it will turn to a line, which then means you're dropping the whole audio and you're not adding an extra point. So this would sound like this. As you can see, it drops down, allows someone to talk over the top of it, maybe a jingle or an ident, and then the sound comes ramping back up again. And of course, you can press Ctrl Z to undo all of your problems, which is always a good thing to do. So what we're going to do here is just a real simple little mix from the so I want to steal the beginning of this, the outro of this, and I'm going to steal a bit of voiceover that I did a very long time ago for someone's radio show. So if we make these tracks a little bit bigger, just so I can see it a little bit clearer, I can then use Control and scroll wheel to zoom in this way, and Alt and scroll wheel to to zoom up and down. So a little bit different to the waveform window. So I want to steal this beginning bit here. I like the sound of this. So now at this point here, here's where another loop starts. So what I want to do is zoom into this loop, really find it quite accurate like that, get our razor blade tool, and then I want to cut along this red line. So unlike Premiere Pro, where the razor blade tool kind of snaps to where your cursor is, in Audition it does not snap, so you have to get it dead on exactly where you want it. So I can go back to my mouse tool, and as you can see, this clip is now free. What you can see here, however, is if I drag this audio clip over the top, it'll automatically do a crossfade for me, which is quite good, especially if you've got two tracks that you just want to fade one straight into the other. You can just leave it like this, and what you'll see, if I zoom this back out again, is... So, you didn't even notice it because it was so good. If I do that a little bit worse, or if I do that a little bit longer, because the track is the same track, it'll be, so you have that little double drum press there. Because we're working in half a second increments here, it is very, very small. Now, what I want to do is I want to steal the end. So exactly the same as Premiere Pro, you can just drag and drop your clips by waiting until your little symbol turns to a red kind of C shape with some arrows, and you can clip the beginning and end of your track. So I'm going to steal the end of this, move this over a little bit, and then what I want to do is try and find the loop point from the end of this and then loop it into the beginning of this. So I may speed this part up to make sure that you're not hearing the same thing over and over again. So now I've done that, as you can see, I've shrunk that 30-second clip now down to about 10. That's where it tails off here. Tails off about there, so we can crop that in there a little bit. So 10.5 seconds. So now sounds like this. So we've got a nice little intro here, and then away with it. And now it's quite nice and gone. And that could be our backing, that could be like an ident, that could be a jingle, that could be anything we like. So what we can now do off this is we can now add a voiceover in. So if I drag and drop this blank voiceover in here, again, because it was recorded at an earlier date and it's got a different sequence and sampling rate, we click OK and it will convert it for us. Depending how fast your machine is, will dictate how quick that process is. So as you can see, this audio is a lot quieter than the previous one. So we might want to double click on this here, and we might want to increase the volume first. So exactly the same as our previous Audition video. So I'm just going to steal the first one because I believe you're going to hear me again. You're listening to Farnborough FM. You are indeed listening to Farnborough FM. So I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to make this a lot louder, but what I can do if I stop it there. Now I've got a big spike here. To Farnborough FM. So a little kind of little pop in the microphone here. So I can zoom all the way in here and I can reduce the volume of this. So it makes my life a little bit easier. So I can push the volume that tiny bit higher. So I can kind of just about clip 3, which is where I want to be. So about there. You're listening to Farnborough FM. Oh, doesn't that sound much nicer? So now that's done in here, if I now jump back to my Multitrack session, you can see that that volume has increased visually, because here's where the volume was before, here is the volume now. So what I want to do is get my razor blade tool, I want to crop it there, go back to my mouse tool, click over here and press the delete key on the keyboard, because this is the only bit of audio I want. So this is very basic. Normally your jingles or idents, for example, if this is seeming what I'm now making it for, it's usually a lot shorter than this, but as a demonstration it's not too bad. So I'm just going to pull this back here. I want that roughly in line with that because I quite like that outro there. And simply what I'm going to do, if I pull this over here, so exactly the same as what we did before. So I click on my little volume line. I want to have 2 dots at the beginning, 2 dots at the end, hold down Control, and then I want to drop the volume there. And then it should. You're listening to Farnborough FM. Now that's quite a sharp drop. Normally you would have it a lot smoother than that, so I'm going to pull these lines out a bit so I make this a lot more of a shallow curve rather than kind of a sharp, steep drop. So with this, I can pull this one over here. I can pull him over here a little bit.
You're listening to Farnborough FM.
Because generally, what you're looking for is to have your peaks from the music to the voice being roughly the same. So here we're hitting about 6, then we're dropping down with the voice, and then we're coming back up. So I'll need to push this voice up a little bit higher. So I'm just going to drag this line up here, add another couple of decibels just to try and equal the sound out, so it doesn't sound a bit too jarring or a bit too quiet between the two.
You're listening to Farnborough FM.
Now, I could even, if I wanted to, pull this up a smidge. Because it's all just about playing.
You're listening to Farnborough FM.
See there, it's a little bit on the edge between me fighting with the background noise and the background noise kind of carrying it through. So, just for this kind of example here.
You're listening to Farnborough FM.
So that doesn't sound too bad. I haven't hit 0, so I haven't peaked, which is the main thing. So this is how multi-tracking works. So you're always focusing on how two or more tracks are interacting with each other. So you can, of course, increase the entire track volume by using these controls over here. So I can make the entire track, so that's every audio clip in that line bigger or So with multitrack, you can change the entire track's volume by adding or taking away gain using this little dial over here. So you simply click and drag this, and that will increase the volume or the gain on every single audio clip in that line. It won't affect any others, it will only affect that one line. You can, of course, click in there and type in your own numbers. You physically will have to type in the minus key or the hyphen on your keyboards to actually decrease the volume or the gain, but with the plus numbers, if you just type in the number, it will assume it's a plus. Now, the other thing you can do with this as well is you can add effects into the channels. Now, with the effects, they do only affect the channel that they're working in. So when you click on a channel, you can click on this option here called Effects Rack, and then what you can do is you can add effects in, which is quite nice. So let's say I want to add something in particular, so let's have a look. Let's pick something really strange that you can really spot quite easily. Let's add a bit of a flanger to it. Oh, my phalanges are missing from my plane. So generally with Audition, it's always nice to have a look through the presets because they always sound quite fun. So let's make it robotic, why not? So if I close that, then it should, as you can see over here on track number 1, it's added it in. And if you only want to hear one track, you can press S for solo or M for mute. So if you want to mute a track, you can press M. If you want to solo a track and only hear that one track, you can press S and it will mute the rest for you. So, see, that's what it sounds like with a weird robotic flanger on it. Sounds a bit strange, don't like it. If you don't like it, you can just press the delete key and it will get rid of it and it will return it back to normal. I quite like the normal sound, in all brutal honesty. It's quite jazzy. It's a bit long, but it'll do. So usually with something like this, you would have a vocal that is a little bit longer. Usually you would probably go from roughly this start here to about there, and then you'd have the nice little tail off to finish. And then fade into a song if you're doing radio, or likewise if you're making something for your filmed projects, you can of course have various sound effects that scale on top of each other. So that was a little basic introduction to multitrack. Of course there are a plethora of different things you can do with this, but these are the main uses that you can see. So feel free to subscribe to the TechNet channel to get more glorious content like this, and of course follow us on all our social media platforms as well. We will catch you in the next video. Ta-ra!